Okay, let's talk about Jackal, because when this game's at its best, this feels like pure controlled chaos, and it's all the stronger for it. It's fast, it's stylish, it's completely unhinged, and while it doesn't get everything right, it commits so hard to its vision that it's hard not to admire this little indie gem. Now when it comes to shoot 'em ups and bullet hell games, everything hinges on that aforementioned controlled chaos. You've got relentless enemy waves, split-second reactions, and screens packed with projectiles that demand constant focus. We've seen this done brilliantly in recent games like Returnal and Never Awake, and Jackal understands that assignment straight away. It is short, no doubt about it, but it does pack in the genre's strongest elements and filters them through this neon-soaked, trippy 70s aesthetic that feels both bold and unapologetic. Now it's worth noting at this point that not every idea lands. Some of the mechanics do feel inspired and others feel a little half-baked. But taken together, they form this gorgeous hedonistic cocktail of energy that fully commits to its vision, for better and worse. Now Jackal rarely plays it safe, and that alone makes it a standout in this field. Now there is a story here told mostly through cutscenes between raids, but it is completely unhinged. You play as a drug-fueled superpowered hitman tearing through casino hotels to dismantle the Las Vegas mob. However, you're not alone, as along for the ride with you is Anubis, the Egyptian god of the dead, acting as your surprisingly laid back and pretty chill guide. Now he's constantly reminding you not to get distracted, and certainly not to flirt with the blonde bombshell who shows up midway through. The narrative is predictable and most people will probably see the twist coming, but honestly, all of this is mostly window dressing because the real focus is obviously on the gameplay. Jackal is played from a top-down perspective with procedurally generated arenas filled with hitmen armed with everything from knives to machine guns. The combat here revolves around a surprisingly flexible moveset, which starts off with simple kicks that form the backbone of most encounters. You can boot doors into enemies, slide furniture across rooms, crush people against walls, and more, which constantly encourages creative play. It's a simple system, but incredibly smart when you start playing around with the tools on offer. The hand-to-hand combat is then backed up by a wide selection of melee weapons, many of which feeling intentionally overpowered. Even unlikely tools like a billiard cue can end up being incredibly effective. Guns also play a major role here too, which include pistols, machine guns and shotguns, and they all have slightly different handling. Combined with the procedural structure, no two runs ever feel quite the same. Now a big part of Jackal's replayability comes from its customization. You can re-roll dungeon layouts every time you die, you can tweak modifiers in the options, and experiment with different rule sets. From disabling reloads to forcing finisher only runs, there's a lot to like. Now credits where it's due, the developers have clearly put thought into long-term variety with this one, and to be honest, the only real disappointment I have is the lack of Steam achievements, which feels like a really missed opportunity for some genuinely creative challenges. Some of its most inventive concepts arrive surprisingly late too, and then never really return. There's a brilliant rooftop level where poor positioning sends you plummeting to your death, there's a tiger hunting section across a casino floor, and some other lovely surprises that I'm not about to spoil in this review. It's frustrating because when Jackal experiments like this, it usually hits more than it misses. Now one area where the game consistently shines though is environmental interaction. Using a sledgehammer, you can smash doors apart, furniture regularly shatters when you kick into them, and rooms descend into all-out ruin and chaos. Combined with generous splashes of blood, it really heightens that sense of unpredictability. Jackal is 100% at its best when everything feels moments away from spiraling out of control. Now structurally though, most raids do follow a predictable rhythm, which is a bit of a shame given the unpredictability of using all these different weapons. Later levels often escalate by flooding areas with reinforcements once you've cleared out the first wave. It does work at first, but it's used so often that it loses impact, and when you start to see it coming, you'll end up stockpiling weapons and just hiding round doorways and waiting to ambush those soldiers as they show up. The combat itself is given a little bit of a kick, as it's supported by Anubis' god powers. These are one-time abilities you can use for each level, which involve things like slowing time, teleporting, or boosting speed. The more kills you get throughout the game, the more options you have to unlock another power-up to use. They are useful and quite fun to play around with, but they also lack depth. There just isn't enough variety to encourage real experimentation here, because slowing time and teleportation quickly become the default options, especially with those reinforcements when they come in. Everything else here just kind of feels a bit secondary. The other problem with Jackal comes from enemy AI, which is, well, inconsistent to say the least. Sometimes enemies do get stuck, other times they lose track of you after seeing one of their teammates killed right in front of them, and sometimes they just pace back and forth in the hallways. More often than not though, they charge headfirst or spray bullets in your direction, making ambushes a great way of dispatching a lot of these guys. It's not a deal breaker, but it does blunt the challenge at times, especially when enemies don't really do anything like flanking or even laying down suppressing fire, so you're pinned in a room. Now visually though, Jackal looks superb, despite some distracting distortion effects in certain cutscenes that is. The soundtrack though is where this one really shines. It blends neo-noir ambience, guitar riffs and acid jazz influences to create a brilliant soundscape. It really does elevate every encounter and makes the chaos feel purposeful. Ultimately though, Jackal is great fun and a really solid indie. It certainly isn't a definitive top-down shooter, and it's not going to dethrone Hotline Miami from that anytime soon, but it doesn't need to either. What it offers is a rip-roaring, stylish, unapologetic experience that fully commits to its influences. Now of course, a short campaign is a bit disappointing, because a longer campaign and perhaps deeper god powers would have really helped give this one a bit more of a kick. But what is here is confident, strong, and consistently entertaining. If you enjoy fast, chaotic shooters with personality, Jackal is well worth your time. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.